So happy to be back. And today the topic is very interesting. We're going to talk about productivity, even with all the changes happening around us, global pandemic, some areas in the world is still in quarantine, others already back to normal life or the new normal or whatever we call it. But everybody's facing or recently faced big changes, and it probably affected your productivity. It affected mine. So it was time for me to rethink about how to be productive. What does it really mean to me? What do I want to get done? So I thought it was a nice topic to bring and talk here more openly. So that's what we are going to talk about today. Productivity, how to be productive, how to get things done, even during the pandemic, even during the quarantine, and even during those crazy times that we are all facing. My guest today has a lot of experience with that, helping others with productivity and also living the things he talks about and all of that. So it's going to be very interesting. And yeah, I'm happy to have this chance. Hello, hello.
We are in. Mic check, 1, 2, 1, 2.
How are you?
Yeah, okay. Good, thanks. So, como você está?
Como você está? Muito bem. Very good. Muy bien. That's
can't
it.
say any more than that.
Yeah, no more. Nice. I'm very happy to have you here. We have been planning to do that for a while, right? And our busy agendas didn't allow, but today we made it. I would like to start by inviting you, Sam, to introduce yourself. So can you do that?
Yeah, I'll give it a go. Well, where do I start? Yeah, this is a good question, and it's a tough one for me usually, mainly because I'm going through a bit of a transition in terms of what I'm doing at the moment. But I guess for the last couple of years, I've been a coach who's been helping coders and creatives with, I guess, work-life balance, productivity, career progression, those type of things, mainly in, I guess, the tech space. But in a strange twist, I've actually been learning software development myself. So you actually threw me off with that question, because I think how I identify myself has actually changed over the last couple of months. Yeah, I've almost failed on question number 1.
But that makes sense, because we are all facing change. I mean, not exactly the same change you are facing, but with the pandemic and all of that, all of us in one way or the other, we had to face change in the past month. So some people are more back into the normal path, if we can use this word normal, after so many changes. Other people are still facing, several changes because of the external situation or because of the choices they made. Like you chose a different career path, you're working on it. So I think change is a word that connects all of us at this very moment. So when we think about change and productivity, with so many things happening around, how can we still be productive with all the change outside and inside? Is it possible to find a balance, or at least a comfortable situation? How to do that?
It's a great question, and you kind of touched upon it in your great intro around how there's a lot of information out there in terms of what you should do this, do that. And some of it does work, but I think the point that we'll probably hammer across today is that it's finding what works for you and going from there, and finding the other key word you said there is balance. Because I think you can start with some strategies and go at it, 100% pedal to the metal, as we would say in English, and you'll do really well for like maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a month, but it's not always sustainable at that pace. So I think even during these times when there is the change, we've almost got to find our own balance again, because some of the variables have changed. Maybe the job's changed, maybe the pressure's changed, or for a lot of us, I guess the physical environment will have changed. Some of us will be working from home instead of from the office. So it's definitely possible, but I think it's a case of finding what works for you. And trying out a few things. But like you say, there are some basic concepts which carry over to most people, but you can always tweak it and try it, see if it works, see if it doesn't. So it's definitely possible.
Yeah. It's funny, because if you go on the internet and you search for the word productivity, you're going to find so many things, techniques and specialists and all of that. And it can be even overwhelming, right? Just searching for how can I be more productive, because there are so many information, and some are even contradictory So some people will say one thing and then you ended up finding another article that says the opposite. So it's like, is this a joke or whatever? But what you said, testing out things, because there is not one formula. It would be easier, but there is not one formula works for everybody. And also for the same person. Maybe for some months it works for me, and then after a certain period of time, the same technique, the same thing I was doing, it was helping me a lot, is not helping me anymore. So it's all about testing, and I think being patient, because I cannot just tell you, do this and this, and then it's going to work, because unfortunately it's not like that, right? It's about testing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's almost like treating it as almost like a science experiment. Like you come up with a hypothesis, like maybe if I try this, I hope this would happen. And you do it for a bit and monitor the results. Because I think a lot of personal development is around awareness and understanding and being able to monitor what's going on around you, but also internally, I guess, as well. So without having that awareness, you might not be able to notice that something needs to change, or you might not even notice that something has changed, or what needs to change if you do decide there is something you want to change. So it is... I guess it is evolving all the time, and that's something to also keep to have awareness of, is because even if you think you've nailed it, something might change, or you might even just get bored of that routine and stuff. So then it's a case of, okay, well, let me try and switch something up. So what I usually sort of say to clients is, with any sort of action steps or whatever that we set at the end of the session, is just treat it like a sandpit. It's an experiment. It's fun. Go and try something. If it doesn't work, it's not the end of the world. It's not like, oh my God, it's okay, well, that didn't work. Let me take that data, see what worked, what didn't. I'll change it a bit, try it again. Yeah. And you can take that principle for most things in life, really. I mean, obviously, extremes like, oh, let me jump off this bridge without a parachute and see if that works. So, that's not going to work. But
in a safe environment, let's say.
Exactly, yeah. But in a strange way, the human brain kind of, the way that it works, like something as simple as, I don't know, like maybe doing an Instagram live, our brain can't really tell the difference between the danger levels. Like, I mean, I got a bit nervous doing this, getting ready for this, but the human brain just basically is trying to keep us safe. And if it thinks that there's danger around, it will say, oh, don't do that. And it'll, the fight or flight mechanisms will kick in, the adrenaline will be pumping. But in reality, this is an Instagram live. The worst that could possibly happen is maybe I say something wrong or pronounce something wrong, or the feed dies. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. So it's strange. Yeah. And again, it's good to be aware that the brain will always be more scared than it needs to be. And that's just keeping you safe. So that's an interesting thing to, just to be aware of again.
Yeah. Awareness is very important, as you said, and allow ourselves to try, because one thing is like, I tested something, it worked out, and now I want to test another thing, or it didn't work out, I'm going to make another choice. But it's not necessarily a failure. It's not like, oh, that was terrible, there was a waste of time, I went completely wrong. No, you're just trying stuff and eliminating possibilities that for some reason right now doesn't work for you. But again, in 3 months' time, it might work again. So it's very relative. And I was wondering, what is productive for you? Because maybe it's completely different than what it is for me, right? Some people are like, okay, I want to work 10 hours per day, and that's what I call productivity. That could be for some people. Other people will say there is this movement which is completely the opposite, like working very few hours per week and still get things done. So what we call productivity varies a lot. So what is it for you? How do you define being productive?
Yeah, I mean, I define it as basically, I guess, I'm just making this up on the spot, I guess sustainable progress. But in terms of how I do it personally, I guess it's from, years of having those experiments and trying out different ways of doing things. Because like most people, when I first started looking at productivity, there was so much information out there. Some of it is scientifically backed, some of it might work, some of it doesn't. And I guess just going into just a side topic on how I got into productivity is, I guess many moons ago I was doing music production, and I'd been made redundant from my job. So I had all the time, I had money in the bank, I had the studio equipment, and I was sat at my desk and I had everything there, and I still wasn't doing anything. And I thought, something's wrong here. So that's what started my journey into Googling about procrastination, motivation, habits, productivity, all these kind of things. So I've been there, and I'm still tweaking. Even I guess that was 7 years ago now. So after doing, I guess, years of experiments, I've come to the conclusion basically sleep is the most important thing for me. And if I don't get good enough sleep, it has a knock-on effect on my whole day, on my whole mental attitude, my productivity rate, and also I guess my tolerance levels. Like I have a really short fuse if I don't sleep.
Yeah,
But
that's so important. People don't
yeah.
value that enough. I think we just get used to, yeah, I sleep because I have to sleep, not because this is like the key element that's going to help me to be more productive, to be more alert, to be more effective in the things that I do. So I remember times in my life that I was not sleeping properly, and I didn't notice, but with time I was more irritated. I was taking longer to concentrate. Like one thing that I would normally do, like in 1 hour, I was taking hour and a half, and I couldn't associate things. I was like, there is something wrong. Like the last thing I thought was about sleeping, but now I suffer the consequence. So I totally agree with what you're saying. Sleeping is super important.
Because it almost seems counterproductive, because surely if you're sleeping more, then you're not working enough. But
exactly.
What happens is basically when you're tired, you might be putting the hours in, but it's more taxing on the brain. You're not fully energized, basically. So I made that connection early on, that whenever I don't have a good night's sleep, it has an effect on my productivity. And again, even just reading about sleep, how many hours should you have? Some say 6, some say 7.5. Again, it's finding what works for you. I mean, I've one of the best apps that I've found, it's probably the app that's had the most impact on me in the last couple of years, is something called Sleep Cycle. I think it's sleepcycle.com might be the address, but how it differs from normal alarm clocks is it uses the microphone to sense when the optimum time to wake up is. And this is all around sort of sleep cycles. Because if you just set an alarm for 8 o'clock in the morning, say for example, and you've slept, say 4.5 sleep cycles, and sleep cycles are usually around 90 minutes, that alarm will wake you up potentially in the middle of a sleep cycle. And that's not good, basically. It makes you feel a bit groggy, you're not really there. So when we sleep, we want to go into a sleep cycle, then we want to come out, and that's when we want to wake up at the end of a sleep cycle. So I haven't quite worked out how the app does it, but it wakes you up at that time, or if that's before the alarm, it'll wake you up before the alarm, if that makes sense. So the idea is...
But it's taking into consideration the importance, again, of the sleeping properly.
Exactly, yeah. So
I've
been monitoring that for about 1.5 years, and that's had a really good impact. And it's clear as day that when I don't sleep, because it'll track your sort of sleep data as well, and it's no coincidence that when I don't sleep, my brain's not really with it that day. I mean, I can do a bit of work, but it's, those days when you just sit at the laptop and you're...
and you're like, oh.
And you're not really there. So.
I have that, in this bracelet here. It also measures the sleeping and all of that. I can check that in my phone. So that's actually how I noticed that I was not sleeping properly, because I was tired, but I was not associating like lack of concentration, feeling tired, not motivated, more irritated. Everything was getting on my nerves, but I was not making the connection with that and lack of sleep. And at some point, I decided to check the data of this bracelet on the phone, and I was like, wow, definitely I have, because it shows the past months also every night. So I was like, definitely I'm not sleeping enough. And then it was like an alert to me. Yeah. So it's sometimes we need to see something that makes an impact, and then we are like, okay, it's time to change things. You know what made also a big effect on me when I read about the most productive times of the day. I never thought about it before. Now it seems very obvious to me. But when I first read about some people are more productive in different times of the day, it was like a boom to me. It made a big impact. So can you talk a bit about that, the different times of the day and how people are more or less productive?
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few different studies, but just to keep it as simple as possible, some people like working in the morning, some people like working late at night, and it's just to do with their bodies more than anything. I think chromotype is the technical word. But again, through tracking that I did many years ago, where I would track my energy levels throughout the day, I realized that I was a morning person, basically. So that
Me
made
too.
me that explained why whenever I hit sort of 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was sort of falling asleep and nodding off. And I think most humans have that to some degree anyway. But it made me realize that if I can do my most important work during the morning, then that's going to be more productive. Whereas if I try
Yes.
and do it in the afternoon, like 2 or 3 o'clock when I'm falling asleep, it's going to be harder to do. So yeah, I think finding out, and a lot of people will know instantly when you talk about, are you a more, what do they call it, an early bird or a night
Early
owl?
bird. Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
people will know instantly, oh, I'm definitely that one. Well, if that's the case and you're able, and you're autonomous and you're able to structure your workload a bit, try and put those, I guess, more mentally taxing tasks around the time blocks where you've got the most, I guess, mental energy and capacity to be productive. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's finding what works for you, knowing when you've got the most energy and being able to move because like general sort of admin stuff, it doesn't take much brain capacity. You can kind of do it even half asleep. But if you're trying to create something or really trying to focus or think about something, that's harder to do when you're tired. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's as we keep saying, it's finding what works for you.
Yeah, yeah. I think some people know when they are more productive, but they don't really necessarily put the most important task of the day or the one that
Mm,
requires more brain and more concentration on that time. So that was the big shift for me. Like I always knew I was a morning person, and at night my brain really doesn't really work, and I go to bed early and all of that. But I was not taking advantage of that. I knew it, but I was
mm,
like, yeah, I'm like that. But now I try to place creative stuff early in the morning. That works very well for me,
hmm
for example. um, I avoid like call with clients very early in the morning. I prefer to use that time for myself because my brain is
mm,
really uh, in a good state. When I was working for a company, because now I have my own business, I can adjust a bit my agenda. But when I
mm,
was working for a company, for example, as a recruiter, I was scheduling my interviews with candidates starting at 11 a.m. So I had from 9 to 11 to do other things
mm.
in the job that I could be on my own and use all my brain, all my energy to get things done. So even if the person works in a company, maybe it's possible a certain level of adjustment to make the most of that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, because you're almost missing a trick if you know that you're a morning person or not necessarily a night owl, but where your energy is. Yeah, if you're try and sync them up basically. And yeah, like you say, even if you're working for a company, there's probably some way you can still rearrange all those
yeah,
tasks you've got to do in some sort of order of concentration required.
yeah. And I think there is a difference between I'm able to do it 100%, I have full autonomy, and if I don't do that, I don't do nothing, or do that as much as possible. So if you do that
Mm,
3, 4 days a week, it's already great. Like even having my own business, I'm not able to do that all the time because of the time difference. For example, sometimes I have client in another country and I have to do the session at 8 a.m., which I can do. But I prefer to use my 8 a.m. time to other things. Maybe I'm having
mm,
breakfast after my yoga, but I need to be flexible. So it's not about I have to do that every single day,
mm,
otherwise I give up. No, it's like try that. If it works, try to add that as much as possible to your
mm,
agenda. And other days, you just do something different that might end up working because you need to get things done
mm.
anyway. But I think it's play a bit with the options and yeah, see
Yeah,
what works and what is possible, what is
yeah.
realistic, because we don't have an ideal agenda. Every day at 8 a.m., I'm going to be having
Mm,
breakfast. Well, no, some days I won't have breakfast if something urgent happens. So it's
mm.
try to balance that a little bit, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Um, yeah. Someone is asking here, Monsieur Raoul, if we have a morning routine. Oh, interesting. Do you want to answer that? I have my, I know
Ladies
my answer
first.
already. Okay, ladies first. Yeah. My morning routine changes depending on where I am in the world. I mean, right now, because of the pandemic, I am in Brazil, so I was able to create a routine that works here. But because I travel and work at the same time, it pretty much changed depending on where I am. But right now, my morning routine is I wake up at 6 a.m. with the alarm clock. Then I have an app on my phone that is like a gratitude journal, okay, on the phone. So I write 3 things that I'm grateful for, and then 3 things that I commit to do to make my day amazing. So it's supposed to be like 5 minutes journal. I spend along that, so it's a short thing. I save that on my phone, and then I write 2 pages of journal, like automatic writing journal. So I actually have it here. So I just write down, even before I leave bed, you know, I write down 2 pages of whatever is in my mind, whatever I'm feeling like, and all of that. So 2 pages of journaling. And then after that, I'm doing yoga, between 30 to 45 minutes yoga, depending on the day. I have another app for yoga, so I can choose the kind of class, the style, and all of that. After that, I take a shower, I have breakfast, and then by, let's say, 8:15, I'm already working. So that's my morning routine. Yeah, and I'm happy with that. It's working. So as I said, it changes from time to time, but right now this is the one, and it's working fine.
Yeah, you're grateful for your morning routine.
Yeah, I am. Do you have one at the moment?
I do, yeah. I mean, just on that note, I really like the journaling part of that, because that's something
me too.
have encouraged some of my clients to do as well. It's not something I've done manually myself, but just, I guess some people call it free writing, or I just call it like a brain dump, just getting those thoughts out of your head. It's almost like you're purging that energy out of your system, and I think that's a really good thing to do, either before you go to bed or first thing in the morning, just to get, sometimes we sense something's not right or something's stressing us, but we can't pinpoint it until we verbalize it or get it out of the system. So I love how you put that into your routine.
Yeah, just one more note about it. The feeling is like when I wake up, my mind instantly goes like and working and a lot of thoughts. So when I write, it's like I'm emptying my mind and I feel lighter again, because all that buzz, like I have to do this and that, it goes to the paper. So it's just like automatic. I'm not judging what I'm writing. I just write, and then I feel lighter. After that, it's like, okay, I removed from here to the paper. So it has a big releasing effect on me, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's kind of similar, like what you're explaining there is similar to like if you've got a browser open, but you've got like 20 tabs. The brain's trying to remember, I've got to do this at 3 o'clock, and then I've got to do the laundry, and it's trying to remember all these things as well as doing the task that you're currently doing. So closing all those browsers and just storing that information somewhere else is actually a great productivity tip. So great idea. In terms of my routine, then what do I do? Mine is a lot. My morning routine, and this kind of sounds weird, actually starts the night before, because I've realized sleep is so important to me personally that I go to bed at a certain time. So my routine actually starts the night before by reminding me, hey Sam, it's time to wind down a bit now. Try if you can to get to sleep by this time, knowing that you'll fit in the right amount of cycles and you can wake up around this time. So that's the first part of it. Then something I've been experimenting with lately is getting vertical as soon as the alarm goes off. So it's all very well having the alarm go off, but actually for me, I realized getting out of bed was the hardest part. And as soon as I was up, I was fine. So I've been trying to install that habit of alarm goes off, get up out of bed, ready to go. And then I'd go down, do only 7 minutes of exercise. It sounds random, but it's only because there's an app called, I think it's called 7 minute drill or something. Mainly because I notice my motivation is quite low to do physical stuff in the morning. So 7 minutes is fine for me. And then one of the most important things I do is have a pint of water, because the brain, well, we all know about dehydration, and essentially when we're asleep, we haven't been drinking for 7, 8, 9 hours. So the first thing, well, I guess the third thing I do is have that pint of water straight away that just refuels the body and the brain, because when the brain's dehydrated, it shrinks and you're not really working at full capacity. So it's water. Then I'll have a bit of breakfast, which is usually porridge oats, yogurt, some fruit chopped in there. So I've studied about which fruits give you different energies, and that's what works for me. It doesn't taste amazing, but I know every time I have porridge oats, that's going to give me energy for a good few hours. And the final thing I've been experimenting with is actually when to have my first coffee of the day. Usually I'd have it with my breakfast, but I've been trying to have it maybe an hour later because I've been reading about how cortisol levels, if you can bring them up naturally in the first part of the day and then have coffee, that might be better. So I'm experimenting with that. It might work, it might not, but coffee is usually the last thing I do, and then it's off to work. I'm fully fueled and I'm ready for action.
Nice, nice. And some things are so simple, right? Like this, identify which fruits work better for me, which would. It's nothing like super advanced, or like having a glass of water. I mean, come on, that's so basic. But if we implement that every day, we see the change. I saw a video somewhere that was saying like, okay, if you just have one glass of water and you expect that it changes your life, it won't change. But it's like that same glass of water every single day during 3 months, that's when you notice the change, right? Because we are very impatient, most of us, human beings in general. So you're like, okay, I had a glass of water and I didn't feel the power, the magic, like my life didn't change. It's not about this glass of water. It's not about this one, but it's about the routine and the habit of when I wake up, I remember that I have to hydrate my brain, and then I drink a glass of water every day. So it's not about this glass, it's the routine, is the sequence, is creating the habit of doing that. So it's more a sequence of actions that, so 7 minutes doesn't seem much for physical activity, but it's definitely way better than none, especially if every morning. Now I do like a religion, every morning I do my 7 minutes. That's way better than waiting for a day that you're going to spend 2 hours in the gym and you never do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's a balance, right? Yeah. Some people are sharing here morning routine. Toilet routine.
Yeah. I mean, we
read
just,
a book, read news.
That is part of it.
I mean, use your time and do what you got to do, and add other fun or necessary stuff in the meantime also. I think there was some other comment here. I'm more productive. Guy Viegas is saying, I'm more productive in the morning or at night and lazy during the midday. That's amazing because you already identify that. So you can play a bit with that. Hopefully you have a work setup that allows you to do that, because then that can be more difficult if you work for a company from 9 to 6 and then in the afternoon you don't feel like doing anything. But if there is this flexibility, if you work on your own, or if you don't have to accomplish a certain amount of hours, that's amazing. Just get stuff done in the morning, do other stuff, maybe outdoor activities, sports, watch a movie, whatever, and then go back to work. So once you identify your peaks of the day for productivity, it's amazing. Then just try to make the most of it, right? Yeah, everybody's different. Every person works different. But it's nice that some people already identified what works for them. And then that's very, very powerful. Yeah. Sam, I remember once we were talking before and you mentioned about the roadmap, the importance of having a roadmap. You said you had one when you're doing some of the transitions in your life and all of that. So I was wondering if you could explain first, what is a roadmap? What are you talking about? And why is it so important to have one?
Yeah, roadmap, I guess, is my current version of a to-do list. And if we zoom out, it's more about knowing what to do, when to do, and in what order. So a lot of people can have a lot of things on their to-do list. Some of them will be more relevant than others, and some of them will have to be done in a certain order. I called mine a roadmap mainly because I'm learning a new topic at the moment. So it's a version of a to-do list. But the roadmap just helps you with knowing what to do when you've done your morning routine, and then you sit down. It's like, okay, now what? And if you've got your roadmap or your to-do list organized, either during part of your morning routine or at the back end of yesterday, you can carry that momentum from that morning routine and just go straight into the work. And it's super important for, I guess, I mean, I'm using my example of learning software development because there's so many different languages, there's so many different routes and technologies that if you didn't have a roadmap, you could just go and learn a bit of this, go and learn a bit of that. But some of it might be crazy advanced, and you might need to have done about 4 other things first. So having that roadmap, and other people can help you with that if they've been through that journey before, it helped me know what I was doing each day, which kept my motivation up. So I would do my morning routine, sit down, okay, what's next on my list? Okay, it's continuing this, and then I move on to that. And that just keeps you on focus as well, because, you know, if you get distracted, you can then come back to the roadmap. So it's almost like, I don't know if any of you guys have done like breath work or meditation, and it's always about coming back to the breath, and then you start thinking about what you're going to do next Tuesday, and then you go, oh no, keep coming back to the breath. So it's almost like that, the roadmap is, it's the road itself as well. So whenever you get distracted or lost or get confused or even get a bit overwhelmed, you can come back to that roadmap or list, and it shows you, okay, well, just don't worry about the future too much, because that's the other thing with the roadmap is, I guess it can go on forever because there's always stuff to learn. There's always going to be stuff to do. It's just bring it back, focus on the present. What can I do now? What can I do in this hour or 25 minutes? And like what I use at the moment is something called the Pomodoro technique. So I tend to work in blocks of, I think it's 25 minutes, and then you have a 5-minute break. But yeah, just having that.
Do you
roadmap.
put an alarm? You put an alarm in your phone, like 25? Yeah.
No, I've
and
actually
after 25 minutes, it brings.
Yeah, I've got a Google Chrome extension where basically, for those who don't know about the Pomodoro, it's a way of keeping that sustained momentum without burning out. Because if you go and do something for 4 hours, you can probably do it, but then after it, your brain is just fried and it's not sustainable. Whereas if you do a little bit and then rest, and then do a little bit more and then rest, and then do a little bit more and then have a longer rest, and then just keep repeating that cycle, it's just going to be more sustainable. So the Pomodoros work for me. Another thing that I've been using or have used a while ago, and it's something called Focus Mate. And it sounds a bit of an odd concept, but it's basically having a virtual co-worker with you. So I would sign up for it. It used to be free. I think you only get sort of three sessions a week on their free version. But I would just be matched up with a random person around the world. We would work for 50 minutes. Yeah, real person. What are you going to do today? Oh, I'm going to do this. What are you doing? Oh, I'm working on this. Okay, let's go. And we both go working, and we've got the other person on the screen here. So it's kind of weird, but it helps you work in, I think those were like 50-minute cycles. So again, some people might want to work in 25. Some people might want to work in 50 or an hour. But I found with me that I could do more smaller sprints rather than less longer sprints. So again, it's about finding that balance for you and keeping it sustainable.
Okay. Yeah, Vicky is saying that I think she said Pomodoro also worked for her, and she has made a YouTube video filming her work. It helps a lot of people working in focus. That's fine. Yeah, there is the thing when you work in an office or in a working space, right? It works for me. Also, just the fact that there are people around, it kind of forces me to keep focused, you know, while sometimes if I'm alone, I get distracted easily. I mean, with time, I learned not to do that because I work from different places, so I work a lot alone. But that helps. Sometimes I feel like I want to be surrounded by people, and then if we can't, we can have that virtually. That's interesting.
Yeah, because I think just going back to I forgot another vital part of my morning routine is I haven't used Focus Mate for a while, but I made up my own version with a friend, and we meet every day at 9 o'clock. So just knowing that someone else is waiting for me at 9 o'clock means I've got to get up out of bed. I've got to get ready.
Yeah, I have to be there.
And now I'm sat at the desk. I might as well do the work. So having that extra person definitely helps.
Yeah.
Especially when, you know, if you're working remotely and now working from home where you haven't got those other people in the office and no one knows if you're working or not.
Nobody. Exactly. So it's testing things. There are resources. Some people might say, 25 minutes, this Pomodoro technique is very short. I can even get started. No problem. You can put longer time, 50, 1 hour, whatever works for you. It's just like teaching your brain that, okay, there will be rest soon. So give your best now, because then you're going to relax. So we are less, the chances of procrastinating are lower, like diminished, because you know that, okay, I'm gonna have a rest soon, so let me get things done. I know soon there will be a break. So it's training your brain to process in a different way. So interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. You mentioned at some point, I don't remember exactly what you said, but you mentioned the word habits. Okay. And some people get confused about like motivation and habit. I know the words itself, they are different, but do they mean the same thing, like work, motivation and habits, or they are different things, different concepts, or all of that? Because at some point they are similar, but I'm not sure if they are completely different or not.
No, it's a good spot, and I think they are similar, but the difference is quite subtle. And I think one of the quotes that I tend to use to describe it is motivation gets you started, but habits keep you going. So they kind of do similar things. Yeah, I want to say it's Jim Rohn that said that. So motivation can tend to be, I guess, internal or external, and that means, you know, is there something inside of me that wants to do it, or is there something outside of me that's making me do it, either like a boss or a deadline? So obviously everyone's going to have different levels of motivation, and it also depends on what task they're doing. Like if they're learning and improving their passion, they're going to be more internally motivated than if they're sat at a desk doing something that they don't really want to do. And then habits, it's more like the structure. Yeah, I guess I call them support structures. So it's having things in place that can keep you going, and I guess keep you on track, keep you focused, keep you on that road. And like you say earlier, it's like, I guess as humans, we want those instant results. It's like, well, I've done this for 2 days and it's not working. And again, there's so much research on there and on habits, and it takes 33 days. No, it doesn't. It takes 66. And again, it depends on what the habit is and the person, and stick with it until it becomes second nature. And habits are kind of weird, because I guess a lot of people, you know, watching now will have either done their shoelaces or driven a car without even thinking about it. They've maybe been in a car for like an hour and thought, oh, I don't remember driving the last hour.
Yeah.
And it's because we're so used to driving, it's a habit, we've done it so often that we don't need to think about it, we just do it. And that's the aim of habits. It's getting yourself to that level where you've done it so long and so often that you can do it without thinking about it. And that's why it takes time, because I can't remember how long it took me to do my shoelaces, but it took me a good few months to learn how to drive without thinking, okay, right, I need to do my mirror, and then I need to go into first gear, put the clutch down, and do all this. So habits and motivation, they come under the same bracket, but they are slightly different. Habits is the structures and the support mechanisms that are going to keep that motivation up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we're not motivated every day. So sometimes we wake up very inspired and I'm going to do this and that. But other days we are not. So if we rely only on motivation, the productivity will be affected in other areas of our life too, because like not every day you feel motivated to eat healthy, and then if you just go this path, then you're not eating healthy at all, and other things, like if you have to write something, even get work done. So motivation, I think it's important, and we should try to cultivate it. But if we rely only on it, we won't get things done, definitely. And also it's very time and energy consuming to be making those choices all the time. It's like, okay, what shall I do now? Shall I eat this or this for breakfast? Oh, so many options. I'm going to try everything. I'm going to do eggs. No, not eggs. It takes time and energy. So you're there for 20 minutes and you still didn't decide what you're going to have for breakfast. So if you already have the habit of, I wake up and I eat porridge and this kind of fruits, that's it. I have done that in 20 minutes. So it's less stress, less decision to make. So my brain is still fresh and I can make other decisions about it. Some people might find it boring. It's like, oh my goodness, how boring are you that you eat the same thing every morning, the breakfast? Well, maybe though it works for me, and I'm saving my brain and my energy and my decision-making skills to choose other things in my life that are more relevant, right? That will make another impact. Because if we are making decisions every time, that's why so many like smart people, they use the same clothes, not the same clothes, but like gray t-shirt, black t-shirt, it's kind of that. The Mark Zuckerberg doing that. I think Obama was also doing having the same style of suit. So that's it. You don't need to choose, for example, such a basic thing like what am I going to dress today, which especially for a woman can be very time consuming and matching and all of that. No, that's it. I have 3 dresses. That's it. I'm going to choose from one of the 3. So my brain is free to be used for something more relevant and more, useful than just choosing that. So habits just put
Yeah.
automatic mode, and it's easier to do stuff.
Yeah, no, just on that point as well, you just reminded me, yeah. So if just to give people a visual, it's almost like when you wake up in the morning, you've got like an energy bar of like mental energy. So if any of you guys remember like the old arcade games, when you start the game and the guy's fighting, his energy level's high, and every time he gets hit, it goes down. That's kind of how our brains work in a day. Every time we wake up, we start with the level, but every decision or choice or thing we focus on, including
You sort it.
consuming media, it goes down and down and down and down. So even when we're on breaks, if we can avoid using devices, that keeps that from going down. The less decisions we have to make. And also something a lot of people do is like work in batches, and like if they've got certain types of tasks, is to do them all together, because every time you switch from one type of task to another and then back again, that also just reduces that and that and that.
It's a lot of work for the brain, to process all of that.
And that bar only ever really gets replenished when you sleep. So that also reminds people how important sleep is, because if you don't sleep well, you wake up the next day and the bar starts at maybe halfway, which means then by the time, so
Yeah, interesting. But that has a lot to do with getting out of their comfort zone, of our comfort zone, right? Because when you tell that, I'm like, okay, maybe I should review some things that I'm doing, all of that, but that's going to be a lot of work, and I need to try stuff, and I don't know if it's going to work. I need to put the time, I need to be intentional about it. And so it reminds me a lot about getting out of comfort zone, and that's not easy. Not easy. So do you have any tips, any suggestion about how to, I don't know, help to consolidate the change, how to help this process of getting out of comfort zone? Because it's not easy. Let's face it. Let's be frank. It's not easy.
It's uncomfortable, and that's exactly the reason why a lot of people, I guess, avoid it to some degree. But like one of the things, especially during the journey that I've taken the last couple of months, that I've realized is that wherever that discomfort is where you grow. And use that as almost like a compass. If something feels a bit, I don't really want to do it, but there's still a part of you that does, then that is a good sign that, okay, you do want to do it. There's just a part of you that's maybe a bit scared. And that's fine. I mean, just acknowledging that's part of human life is, if we've done something so often and it is a habit, we know what's going to happen. We can predict what's going to happen. Whereas with anytime we start to feel uncomfortable, it's because, we don't know what's going to happen. But that's kind of the beauty and the awesomeness of getting uncomfortable. And in terms of tips for it, I guess acknowledging it. Like whenever you feel that discomfort, just say, there's that feeling again.
Pay attention to it.
That's exactly, Whereas a lot of people sort of feel it and they go, oh no, I'm off. See you later. I don't want anything to do with that. Yeah.
Connect with that.
So lean into it. And one of the things that I did recently was, I guess, make my journey public. So I did a challenge called 100 Days of Code, where a lot of people who are learning how to code, they'll just do coding for every day. Again, keep it sustainable. It doesn't have to be 10 hours a day. I tended to average around 4 or 5. But what I did is I made it public. Which is a lot
already. 4 or 5 is a lot already.
Well, it doesn't sound that much, but when you're learning something, you are really taxing your brain. So I found through the hard way that I probably couldn't do 6, 7, 8 hours a day of that because my brain was just
a lot
dead. But what I did is I made it public in as much that I announced it and said, hey, everyone, like on my social media channels, I'm doing this challenge. Because I wanted to do the challenge, but there's a part of me that was like, I don't know. But I knew that as soon as I made it public, it's like, well, I got to do it now because a lot of people are expecting me to upload day 1 video and then day 2. But again, if we go back to habits, by the time I got to about day 10, I really got into the swing of things. And I don't know if people have sort of seen my Instagram page lately. It's gone away from sort of coaching stuff and it's all coding. And I've been doing videos every day for, I don't know, probably for almost, when did I start? April. So a good few months, but just I got into that habit of doing the morning routine, doing my coding, creating the video, publishing it. And now it's almost like a couple of people sort of felt strange when I stopped doing that challenge because I'd almost become part of their routine. They were like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
miss your
They're gonna
videos."
be,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, I mean,
exactly.
some of them don't even, they don't follow the code, but they just like it's become part of their habit and their routine. Maybe if they're winding down in an evening. In fact, my mentor is based in Cambodia at the moment, and that was part of his evening routine as well. I usually sort of finish off
Watch
for
your
the day, and then
video.
and then I watch Sam's video,
Yeah.
and then that sort of marks the end of the day, and
Nice.
that kind of
Yeah.
also leads me on to, I guess, an unrelated tip is getting into the habit of winding down and switching off, ready for the evening, because if you're
Oh, that's
hammering
so
it,
important
sort of
and so
10, 12
hard.
hours, it is hard. Well,
Yeah. We keep
it's a
like
new.
thinking, I'm just gonna connect and send another email, or I'm gonna write down
Mm,
this thing, or let me make this. Like it's never stopping. So the brain is always busy until very
yeah,
late in the night. So find
exactly.
your
Yeah,
switch button. Yeah.
yeah, and that's even harder to do. Like if you're now currently working from home, because your office is also the place where you relax. So they're almost
Yeah.
the same thing. So one of the things that I had to teach myself was to know when to close the laptop and get into some habits that stop, not stop my brain, but slowed it down, because
Slow down. Yeah.
you can walk away and then think, oh, there's that thing, and then because the brain's an
One
amazing thing,
email.
it'll
Yeah.
come up
One
with
thing.
that one thing that you were trying to work out 2 hours ago. As soon as you turn it, and it's like, there's the answer, and you think, oh, okay, I'll go back and do it, which you can
Yeah.
do. But yeah, I had to teach myself to close the laptop, and because I'm also at home as well, I would always try and just get outside. So that then, because I think I did notice someone put a question about the afternoon slump. How would you overcome it? For me,
Ah,
that
yeah.
is close the laptop, just give the brain a rest. Fresh air is probably one of the best things for that. And if you can do some sort of exercise on top of that, that just it has lots of other benefits, because it slows you down a bit mentally, it
Mm-hmm.
re-energizes you a bit physically. But one of the other random things that I learned whilst doing a bit of reading was how the brain works when you give it a chance to just wander. So a lot of people have like these aha moments when they're in the shower or when they're walking the dog, and it's because your brain's not really focusing on anything, and it can just wander.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've, it's it's almost a superpower where you can almost train your brain. I've done it a couple of times actually. You can ask your brain a question before you go to sleep, and then as you wake up, the brain's done its magic at night, and it comes up with the solution, because you're not concentrating on anything else, but the brain spends most of its time trying to make links and put things together and come up with
Yeah.
solutions. But if you're constantly
Even when we are
working
not
and
aware
doing
of that.
stuff, exactly,
Even
yeah.
when
But
we
when
are
we're always
sleeping.
concentrating on something else, the brain can't do that. So that
Yeah.
concept is called diffused thinking, and it was a really interesting insight that I've learned about the last couple of months. So I mean, even though I wouldn't say I'm an expert on this, but I know a lot about productivity, and that's another new area that I was like, oh, this is cool. This is making me more productive, because I'm thinking about, more answers and coming up with more solutions.
That's nice. Let me read a comment here from Chandra66. She said, I used to say that comfortable zone is not comfortable. It is just a uncomfortable zone because people are not happy in this position. Yeah. But it's
Mm,
safer than other unknown position. Yeah. It's just easier. You stay in what you know, in what you have done before, not necessarily what is better for you, not
mm,
necessarily what is serving you more, but as you said at the beginning, we are humans, and the human brain is always like avoiding risks, avoid possible situations that
mm,
can take a lot of our time and energy, it's time consuming. So just keep doing what you have been doing always. It's less energy consuming to the brain, but not necessarily this is something that benefits you. So we need to help our brain to work in the
mm,
best way, because it's always like, oh, it's a new thing, it's a learning, it's a change. No, that's too much. Avoid that.
mm,
That's a risk, but maybe that's exactly the next level and what we need to do. And
mm.
there are some resources for that, as you said when you created the videos, when you're sharing the videos about the coding. It's accountability with
Yeah.
everybody who is out there checking your social media. So people maybe are not telling you anything, or maybe they are. They give you some feedback, they click like, they comment, but it's just that, okay, I committed publicly to something, so damn, now I need to do that. So that already changes your perspective and increase your motivation level on all of that. So a small thing that has a huge impact, even if you are out of your comfort zone, even with this, oh, okay, I have to do the video.
And the amazing thing that happens is that after you do one or two, it's not actually that
you
bad.
enjoy it. Yeah, it's like,
it's actually
not
comfortable.
that hard. And then you get into a routine of doing that, and then you need to create another routine because you get into the habit, so it's not challenging anymore. But it is important to sustain that because it's part of that commitment, and it's aligned with I'm going to code every day and all of that. So it turned into a habit, but it's serving you because it's aligned with the goal of coding every day during 100 days. So
exactly, because I even continued the challenge. It continued doing the videos after the challenge finished. Because it became so much of a habit. Oh, you're done with the 100? Yeah, I finished the 100 like maybe I don't know, almost a month ago, but I still do the videos because I made it a habit, and I actually ended up enjoying it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Do you have a final message, Sam, final note for people who are watching us and maybe are still struggling a bit with productivity? So a final short comment to them to finish our live.
Yeah, I think I'll almost repeat what you said at the start, is find what works for you. Like, have a look and see what other people are doing, try a few things, find what works for you. But for me, like the fundamental things to look at really are sleep, how well are you sleeping, look at your diet and nutrition, how, these are sort of fundamentals that even if these aren't off, doesn't matter what tips and tricks you're doing, you won't have the energy. So it's finding how to maintain your physical and mental energy and just find that balance. It doesn't have to be, because there's people talk about hustle culture online and entrepreneurship and getting up and the grind and all this, and it's not massively sustainable. So it's being realistic and just being okay with it, that I'll do what I want to do and I'll do it at my rate, and that'll keep you going. So find what works for you, keep it balanced, keep it sustainable.
Yeah. More than make big changes, it's keep them sustainable and check often, is it still serving me? Am I still getting the results I want? Do I need to make any adjustment or no? I'm going to keep this habit, like the video for coding. I'm past with the 100 days, but it's a good habit, so I want to keep that. So it's fine. Some habits, they serve us for a certain period of life. Then the circumstances change. So we say goodbye to this habit and we replace to a different one and all of that. So it's looking inside, as you said, what was the word we use? Awareness, acknowledging or something like that.
Acknowledging and awareness, being able to see and feel what's happening and then recognizing it and accepting it and saying, oh, okay, well, that works for me. And that's okay, because we're all different. It doesn't matter what you read on different parts of social media or whatever. It's find what works for you. And you make another great point about just keep it simple. It doesn't have to be a massive change, because if it's too big too soon and you bite off more than you can chew, it's not going to be sustainable. It's like people who, they join up for a gym and they go 7 days a week and they are hammering it. They're doing really well. Yeah. But if they miss a day, then it suddenly drops off and they end up doing nothing. Whereas if you do the gym even just once a week, keep it so simple that you can't really not do it. Start with a low target, keep the bar low at the beginning, and then step by step increase. But the habit is there and you're already enjoying the benefits of that. So you really want that. You want to keep that. And thinking about it, that actually helps with the comfort zone as well, because if we jump too far into that comfort zone, there's too much fear there. So just take tiny steps. Just the one thing. One step after the other. The way I describe it is if there's a part of you that's going, oh, I don't want to do that, but there's another part that goes, oh, that's bloody cool, that I really want to do it. That's the perfect balance. If it's too much fear or it's not exciting enough, don't do it. But if there's a part of you that's a bit, then that's the compass. Do that. Nice. Amazing. Sam, thank you very much for your time, for everything that you share. I really enjoyed the conversation. I mean, every time we speak, I learn a lot from you.
So it's not new for me that I knew it was going to be cool. So I'm happy that I can share that with other people. So much learning, so many interesting things that you mentioned. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. Take care. Thanks, everybody. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.